except for July 2nd, 1863. It's just a pile of dirt and rocks that's only good for growing weeds. That's what trees are, weeds on steroids, you see. And in the fall of 1862, the men that owned this area here, or were standing in front of you, cut down the weeds and made a lot of money on it. It's called lumbering, timbering. And so the hill was fresh cut just several months before the Battle of Gettysburg, which puts it on the map. So Little Round Top essentially becomes the anchor to the left flank of the Union Army on July 2nd, and the scene of one of the most storied single unit actions in American history. So storied, in fact, it's in the FM-105. If you don't know what that is, that's good because that's secret. That's the Field Manual 105 that all combat officers in the U.S. Army have to read. There's a chapter in there on the 20th Maine and Joshua Chamberlain. We'll talk about him in a minute. If you don't know what direction you're looking, just look at the sun. The sun sets in the west. So the west is over there. We're going to simplify it for you and for me too. The sun sets over there. The mountains are to the west. Okay, so that's west, and that's east, and that's south, and that's north. Okay, if you look north, you look up here, you'll see a big dome memorial there that used to sit in India, but we stole it from them in the night. Okay, I wonder if they know the Taj Mahal's missing. Okay, but it's the biggest monument at Gettysburg. It's a Pennsylvania memorial. It's put here in 1910. It has the names of all the men from Pennsylvania that fought here. And it inspired another monument with names on it somewhere else called the Vietnam Wall. So the idea for the wall came from that big dome memorial right there. So don't tell me monuments aren't important. They still inspire today. And if you look past that monument, you'll see another hill with a bunch of trees on. Looks almost like this hill with a bunch of trees on. And that's the beginning of Cemetery Hill, which is the centerpiece of the Union line. And so if you draw a line from where we're standing to there, you have this part of the Union fishhook. See, I brought a map with me so I wouldn't get lost. And then it bends around Cemetery Hill, which is here, which is there. And if some of you can look carefully, you can see a little blue water tower up there. It sits on the hill not far from the Inn of Gettysburg, 1863, that used to be the Holiday Inn. And that's so your toilets reload. We have terrible water pressure here, and so they put our water towers on hills so that the added height would bring water pressure, and so the toilet reloads. You hate to do it by hand, don't you? Okay, there, and so that's what it's doing, but that's Cemetery Hill. Then it bends around over here to a hill called Culp's Hill, which is the barb of the hook. So you're standing at the end of the Union line. On July 2nd, the Union line wasn't here. Okay, the Union line was out there, because the ground out there looked better than the ground here, and so a Union general by the name of Sickles moved his line forward. Some of us remember we went down to D.C., we saw Sickles' leg. Yes. I was just there last week. It's still there. Okay. It's still his leg.
How's it doing?
It's doing fine. It looked better this time than I saw it last time, so I think it got a little rehab. Okay, but Sickles will lose his leg. He really doesn't lose it. He knows where it is. He just doesn't have it anymore. Okay, and it's on display at the Medical Museum. I guess that's in Silver Spring Medical Museum. But anyway, Sickles moves out to the red barn with the white doors and windows and leaves this hill unoccupied. Okay, coming to the hill is the man behind you. You can see him up there, and that's General Warren. General Warren was sent to the hill by the Union commander, who I forget whose name is. I'll remember it in a minute, because he's the 7th commander the Army's had in less than 2 years. Why? Because they keep losing. Okay, and when you lose, you get a new coach. You notice how that works in the NFL. It works in the Union Army as well. Okay, and he sent General Warren to the hill, and you can see why. For a look, there was a signal station up here. When we walk up the hill, I'll show you their monument. And they were getting ready to leave, and Warren asked them what they were leaving for, and they pointed into those rocks down there. Some of you can see where the bayonets are glistening in the sun. I know to you they are windshields, but to me they're bayonets glistening in the sun. And that's the end of the Union line in front of the hill, and Warren asked what was the key to that. He said, that's the end of our line. The Union line ends in those rocks called Devil's Den. Devil's Den. Okay? And Warren said, so what's the problem? Well, look up and to the left, and there I see another bayonet glistening in the sun, way over there. Isn't that fortuitous? Because Warren, in a letter he wrote in 1872, said he noticed how long the Confederate line was because of the sun glistening off their rifle barrels, just like that windshield over there. And if you take a look at the windshield over there, of course, that's the end of the Confederate line. Now, when Warren stood on the hill, he didn't have sophisticated equipment like you people. He didn't have a GPS system, he didn't have an iPod, an iPhone, or an iPad. All he had was an eyeball, and he brought two. How many of you brought your eyeballs with you? George, bring them. George's got 3. One's recording. Right there. And look what he has in his hand. What is that in his hand? Those are eyeball enhancers. You see? And he looks up and he draws a line from that windshield glistening in the sun to his feet. And that line, as you can do it yourself, you don't even need batteries, but you do have to recharge about 2 or 3 hours a night. Okay? It's called sleep. It's good for you. All right? And so he can draw a line and it comes nowhere near the rocks at Devil's Den. So he realizes this hill is not protected. He's responsible for getting men up on the hill to protect it, which is why he has a monument here. If he doesn't do that, we don't put a monument up to him. He's the only staff officer in either army. In either army who has a monument dedicated solely to him. Staff officers don't command troops. They are the assistants to the man in charge. Okay, and he's the chief engineer, graduated 2nd in his class at West Point. He's from New York, Saratoga. He went to college at the age of 16. What's the matter with you people? You know, I'll bet none of you are 16, and you're still not out of college yet. Okay, he graduated 2nd in his class, but they had to retain him a year because you have to be 21 to graduate from West Point. He was going to graduate when he was 20. Okay, but anyway, so that's what he's doing up there, and that's why he has a monument. You'll notice there are a lot of monuments as we go around, and I should point those out to you here while we're standing here. These monuments were put here in the 1880s and 90s by the men that fought here. So when they became 80 or 90-year-olds, they can remember where they fought. Things get pretty confusing after you get past 60. Just ask Terry. They'll tell you. You see, don't ask George. He just turned 39 again today.
Thank you.
But
today's George's birthday.
It's George's birthday.
Oh,
Okay.
happy birthday.
That's right. Happy birthday, George. Thanks for joining us. And anyway, George is showing his back to this monument because they're from Pittsburgh, and he's wearing a Phillies hat. Okay, but this is where they fought, so that's where they put their monuments. The state's paid for them.
He's wearing funny pants.
He is, yeah, he's wearing it. They ran out of men's clothing, so they started passing out the ladies' stuff. That's a fancy Zulov uniform. Only city units have them, because they have to buy their own. You can't expect the government to outfit you like that just to get shot. Okay, they're going to do it as cheap as they can, you see. And so that's there. This gun, his hand's broken. Well, his hand's fixed, but the gun's broken. He's supposed to be loading his gun, and it keeps getting broken for whatever reason or another. Okay, you can see on the side with the sun shining, those are the battles they fought in, and that's not where it starts. It starts on the other side of the monument. So these monuments are not only here to remind them where they fought, but to remind us that this is a 4-day battle and a 4-year war. The war didn't start or end here, it just changed here. Okay, so that's what that monument's doing there. And for those, I will walk around it in a minute here. But anyway, so the monuments are where they fought on the Union position, which makes Gettysburg, in my opinion, the best documented battlefield in the world because it has more monuments on it than any other battlefield for its area. And most of them are, of course, Union monuments because this is the northern side of the story. Okay, the only major battle of the American Civil War fought in the northern state. Now, just before we go on, if you look over here, you can see a white steeple sticking above the trees. A barn out there, a red barn, 3 white spires, white steeple. See it sticking up? What kind of church is it? Can anyone tell? How many live in this area? Anyone live here? You just migrate. Okay. Okay. You're in Gettysburg. There are Germans here. That's a Lutheran church. When in doubt, say Luther. We're filthy with them. I think the fleas on the dogs are Lutheran. Okay, and that sits at the Lutheran Seminary, which existed in 1863. In fact, it started in town at the English House in 1826. And down there where you and I were just talking about where the Englishes lived. And then it moved out there, and then Gettysburg College moved into the English House, where they still speak English. And then it moved out to Gettysburg College, which is near the campus for Hacc. Okay, as many of you know. Okay, so that's a Confederate line. If you look to the right of that, you'll see another little white dot on the hillside, and that's the Peace Light Memorial. Let's see, if you were in my class, and none of you were, because you're not my classmates, Tom was. We talked about the Peace Light a little bit today, about the flame that went on there and had a big flame. Now it has a smaller flame because gas is too expensive. Okay.
Oh yeah, the Peace Light. I know.
Yeah, the Peace Light, and if you stand at the Peace Light, you can look down on the campus of Hacc. Okay, so it sits up there on the hill that overlooks Hacc campus. Okay, so that's how vast the battlefield is. Now, one thing here, any questions at this point? Does anyone have a question?
Well, I have
you go ahead, George.
I have a vapid question.
Oh my gosh, I can't answer
I think
those
I know the answer to, and I know you do, but maybe all of us don't.
Yeah.
What gave Mr. Warren, General Warren, the guy with the binoculars, the idea that this hill needed to be protected? What was so important about it?
Okay, well, one thing, it's high ground, right? You know, it's high ground. The other thing is, if you look in this direction, between us and that Dome Memorial, when Warren stood on the hill, there were no significant combat troops of the Union Army. Okay, they're out here in front of me, all right, in front of the hill. So when Warren gets up here, he looks and he sees the Confederate lines longer than the Union line in front of us, and so there's nothing to stop them from coming over the hill and getting behind the whole Union Army. And it's just like the NFL, when you get behind them, you win. Okay? And so the same thing goes here. The linebackers out of position. If the Confederates could sweep over this hill quickly, they might win a great victory this time on Northern soil, and we would have more seats at the UN. Okay, there would probably at least 50 more seats at the United Nations, maybe 51, because I think there would be 48 states and Portland and New York. That would be the political map of North America. Okay, there. So that's why the hill's important. It becomes a door jam, a stop to keep the Confederates from slamming into the rear of the Union Army.
So the Confederates were moving this way?
The Confederates are over the second line of trees, behind the red barn, white doors and windows, over there where the car now is gone. So we don't know how long the line is anymore. They're at the Peace Light, they're at the seminary, they're in front of Hacc. So if you're at Hacc on July 2nd, you better say y'all, because if you don't, they're going to watch you with suspicion, because that's the Confederate territory after the first day of the battle. So they're the fish trying to swallow the fish whole.
Well, also, you're probably going to get into the surmise that if the Confederates, it's a stretch, but had they been able to get artillery, i.e. cannon, up here, they could do terrible damage to the Union line in that direction. Is that right?
That's what Southerners will tell you.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a different story.
Very good.
Okay, I'm going to have a different story. But Southerners will tell you if they could take this hill, put artillery, they could have blasted the Union Army off that ridge line there in front of you as they're firing downhill. You see, it's like baseball. Has anyone ever heard of it? Baseball? There's only one elevated spot in a baseball field. Does anyone know what it is? Pitcher's mound. Better to throw the ball downhill than up, better to run downhill than up. As you can see, better to look downhill than up. Okay, so the elevated ground is important for pitching and also for artillery, because they throw things too. So it's better to shoot downhill. But just remember this, there's another hill over there behind the big Dome Memorial, and if the enemy's in range, so are you. Okay, you see, so they can shoot back, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, but that's one of the great myths of Little Round Top that we're going to try and address today. Okay, now let's walk around the corner here. I just want to show you the back of the monument here. Parking lot, right there. If you get a chance, get a photo. They have a what do you call postcard, and I have about 3 of them of a picture of this monument with 2 Model Ts sitting right here. 2 Model T cars sitting right there, and the people had to walk up the path. We're not going to do that because we'll lose half of you, so we'll go around. But anyway, I just wanted to point out, from this position, Major General Meade, who commands the Army of the Potomac here in this battle, took a look on July 3rd. What's he doing up here? He's thinking about how he can take advantage of the defeat of Pickett's charge. Pickett's charge, the last major offensive action the Confederate Army swept across those fields behind you into the center Union Army. It was a terrible idea, but they didn't know till it was over. Okay, and so Meade comes up here to try and see things to see if he can take advantage of that. But as he said, due to the lateness of the hour and the confusion of the moment, a counterstroke was impossible to orchestrate. Okay, so Meade stood on this hill. Unfortunately, he didn't stand on it till July 3rd. If he'd have come up here sooner on July 2nd, we wouldn't have this story to tell, because he'd have found Sickles wasn't on the hill and made him get on it. Okay, Sickles is back there behind you in front of me. So Meade stood here, and that's what monument's telling us. So let's go around this way. We'll go around this way. Don't fall. It's their monument. Where's Terry at? Is he all right? Right here. Is he coming? Okay. The Signal Corps, there aren't many of them. They come from different states. A lot of these people go through here. Come on.
Sorry.
That's all right. You don't need to be sorry. We're blocking the way. We're going to charge toll later. So you made it. You got through free. But anyway, right here, you don't have a lot of money, so you get a plaque and you say it's Signal Corps, and you find a big rock and you put it on, and now it's a big monument. Okay, you see? And so that's who they were, and this is what they did. And they put this here, the Signal Corps. The wig-wag system was developed, believe it or not, for the Army in 1860. 1860, war starts 1861. Okay, so they were using signal flags. At night they'll use torches. They only have 1 flag, so this is kind of later rendition of it. They only have one flag that they use, but they have different colored flags, and that means different things. Don't ask me. I wouldn't be in the Signal Corps because I can't remember what English is regular, let alone all the different codes of English. Okay, so this is their monument. Let's walk up here and we'll see Warren. Go up here. This rock has his name on it. You're not allowed to stand on it. Okay, here. And that's because people get up there and get the monument and they keep knocking it over and breaking it. But anyway, so this is where Warren kind of stood to see the situation around him. There, the monument was dedicated 1888. 1888 is when this monument was placed here. Okay, all right, let's walk up this way. We'll go to the top. Keep moving harder and hit that way. We gave John Fuss some room. See, John likes to stand there. If we get a good gust of wind, watch him fly. Okay, it'd be like Mary Poppins. But anyway, here you can see the fish hook I was talking about. This little plaque here. It's upside down, so it looks like a cane from here. Okay, right there. And there's the Pennsylvania Monument, sits right about here. Cemetery Hill's up there, Green Water Tower, then bends over to Culp Sale. Confederates around it. So that gives you an idea. Okay, over here is a photograph. Photograph here taken about 12 years ago, Mitchell. I'll get over here. I'll get up here. See, don't hang on to that. We lost several guides that way. And hang on there, fell right off the daggone thing. But anyway, this picture, and this, see, here's the rocks at Devil's Den. The rocks are bigger now because we added water. Big. Much bigger today than they were then. And the reason they're bigger today is because they cut down all the trees around them. Okay, because trees weren't here in 1863, so they cut them down. That's why I keep moving. I wasn't here either. I know you believed I was, but I wasn't. So I keep moving. So this is a photograph taken in September about 12 years ago. About 12 years ago, showing you the scene. But in the scene are dead bodies. Civil War is not the first war photographed, but it's the first war they photographed the results of it. They took pictures of the dead. Okay, no wonder they had to go to a federal draft on the 4th of July, 1863. And we're still feeling the effects of that draft up here today. Okay, but anyway, so right here you have the dead. Those are Confederates. The Union got buried first. Why? It's a home game for them. Okay, you treat the home team better than you do the visitors. So they were the last to be buried. And who wants to come up here with a shovel and a pickaxe and try and bury somebody? It's just a big pile of rocks. That's all this hill is. That's all this hill is. So these are the photographs that make Gettysburg somewhat special.
So some of the people got buried here too as well?
Well, no, I don't think they're buried up here, Mitch.
You just moved them?
Yeah, they buried them on this. Most of these bodies were put in a wagon to take it to some guy's farm and buried in his yard. Oh, he was so happy. You see? Yeah, because it's very tough. We did find some bodies in Devil's Den, but they weren't buried. They were stuck in the crevices of the rocks, and years later they found them. Okay, there. You say, why didn't they find them sooner? Well, it all smelled bad here for a long time. They didn't get the dead horses taken care of until almost a month after the battle. They were still laying here, and eventually they burned them. Okay, so this is the flotsam and jetsam of the battle. But a little round top is a little flat top today. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to show you something over here. General Weed was killed here, as was Charles Hazlitt, on this spot, not that spot or that spot. Yet I know that this monument used to sit where that one does. So was it on that spot or was it on this spot that Weed and Hazlitt were killed? One of the great stories of Little Round Top are sharpshooters. Are they sharp because they're keen, or are they sharp because they're using a Sharps rifle? Well, you figure it out. The guy that shot these people, however, had a Whitworth. So he wasn't sharp at all, okay, made in England. And his name was Powell. We have his gun in the collection here at Gettysburg. He's down in Devil's Den, supposedly on a rock down there, and he sees Weed standing up here bringing his troops on the field. He takes aim, shoots, puts a bullet in his chest. It nicked his heart. That's 550 yards. 500, but he has a 4-power scope. Weed goes down, Hazlitt comes riding over. There's a real intelligent fellow, a lieutenant. Nothing more dangerous on a battlefield than a second lieutenant, except for a first lieutenant, and that's a second lieutenant with an attitude. And he rides over here to look at him. He goes down to look at him. Powell puts a bullet through his temple. Goes right through here, implodes his head and comes out the other side. Down goes Hazlitt. Okay? So right here, and that's at 550 yards. So only idiots stand up on top of the hill, because then you're sticking out like a thumb. Okay? So just keep that in mind. So it was really here because this wasn't on it when the monument sat there. I finally got a picture of it from the angle, and this wasn't written on until they moved it here. Another thing, and you can come back here and you can look on the rock, And the rock was here since before the dinosaurs. Okay, that's how long this rock has been here, and it's carved on here. Here's where weed and Hazlitt fell. Right there, am I right, Mitchell? Right there it is, you see? I don't make this stuff up, I'm not that creative. Okay, so that was carved before the monuments went up. And so they moved it back there for the monumentation. Okay, all right, so you artillery on the hill. Okay, artillery on the hill. All right, the guns, real or fake? How many say real guns? How many say real guns? Real guns, how many say fake guns? Nobody didn't understand the question. She just doesn't want to get her hands out of her pockets. They're cold. Okay, those that voted are right. You're always right if you vote. Always wrong if you don't. Even if you vote for your wife, and even if you don't have a wife, vote for her anyway. Okay, she'll appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay, but anyway, the gun barrel's authentic. The carriage is not. Gun barrel's authentic. The carriage is not. It's authentic fake reproduction. Okay, this gun's made in West Point Foundry section right there. You gotta know the code. West Point Foundry. It's made in 1864. 1864. It weighs 885 pounds. Why did they put the weight on there?
Probably to know how many horses.
That's what I used to say, and then I found out the truth. Yeah, I was telling the wrong story for 11 years. Don't tell them to take my license away. Okay, but actually it's a barcode. They charge you by the pound. Charge you by the pound. Okay, and this is DWF. DWF, that's Daniel Webster Flagger. I wonder what state he comes from. Texas, right? No, because from Massachusetts. He's an 1861 graduate of West Point, and after 1863, he's here on Hunt's staff. Hunt's the chief of Union Artillery. He got a real cushy job. Go up to West Point and inspect gun barrels. Okay, thank you. Okay, I graduated from there just 3 years ago. So he goes up to the West Point Foundry on the other side of the Hudson, and he inspects gun barrels, and when he says it's good, then they put U.S. on the top, and it becomes government property. Us, you see. Confederate guns. Yeah, that's right. Very good. CS on the Confederate guns. But this gun's rifled, which is mean the projectile spins when it comes out, which makes it more accurate at greater distances. Okay, and now I got to tell you something. When this gun fires from this position, it will kick 6 to 9 feet backwards minimum. Look where it's sitting. Okay, remember they flattened this off, so this gun was never here. If it was, it only got one shot off. Okay, because it'll kick back down the hill and hit those Anderson buses, and they're very upset because those things go $250,000. Okay, you see, right there. And so these guns were never at the top of the hill. There were 2 where we stood earlier by Warren, and there's going to be 4 down here. And I know that because I have a friend from Michigan who has a barber. Everyone should have a barber. I'm looking for a new one. Mine died laughing at me one time. They took half of my hair off. Look at that. Made a swath right through there before she went down. But anyway, his barber had a relative who served in Hazlitt's battery at Gettysburg who kept a diary. And from the diary I discerned that, and also that the men over there couldn't see the 2 guns over there. Okay, and he talked about what they had to eat or didn't have to eat, and it rained on the evening of the 3rd. Okay, pretty hard. He said it also rained a little bit on the evening of the 2nd. But anyway, so these guns were never up here. The problem you have with this hill is it does not facilitate the mass deployment of artillery. And furthermore, look up there. You know, how many can you put up there to fire up there? And the answer is 2. Only 2 guns can fire in that direction. So Southerners who typically take the hill, put guns up here and blast the Union Army off, have never stood on the hill at all. Okay, there you are. My gosh.
Walk around here for like 20 minutes.
We got here and nobody was here.
Well, we were down there. We come up here. Thanks for joining. Yeah, that's all right. They're way down there. They're looking for Little Round Top, and they think that's Little Round Top. Well, it's literal in this one. Okay, so that's one of the things you got to keep in mind. Shelby Foote believes that. You put guns up here, you can blast the Union Army off that position. He's dead now, so I can tell him he's not right. When I had him on a tour, we made a deal. I still told him that you can tell the Confederate stories, and I'll tell the Union stories. Well, Shelby's a good Southerner, you know. And Shelby said, well, then I guess I get to tell the truth. You see, Shelby, stick it in there. Okay, so like I said, there were guns on the hill, but only 6, and they weren't where these guns are. When they put this marker up, this is for the U.S. regulars, the U.S. regulars. Most of these monuments, as you can see, were put up by the states. No one put up markers for the regular army until after the turn of the century when they put the markers up. Then they decided to put the artillery out here. And so if you have an artillery marker, you put the guns beside it. Okay, and so that's how the guns erroneously got placed on this position. There's some of the few guns that are not placed on the spot where they were actually used. Most of the guns are put where guns were. Okay, all right? Okay, let's see, let's walk down. Yes, Tom?
How do you aim these things?
Well, you look down the barrel.
Wow.
See, come here, I'll show you. See right here?
Yeah.
They'd have a sight that comes across. If they took them out, and then you just look down the barrel just like you'd aim a shoulder weapon.
Okay, and can you adjust?
Yeah, see here, you can adjust it here with the elevator screw. Elevator screw makes it go up and down, up and down.
Okay.
Okay. There, and if you want to move it left and right, you pick the daggone thing up and move it. That's right. And you see right here, they got handles. I should have pointed out those young Americans because I think the middle. Look at him right there. See him? See him going? See him? How many see him? Notice what the size of Civil War soldiers were. Civil War soldiers look like modern day 8th graders. There they are, see right there. Yeah, they're coming back to win the battle. Okay? Not like you people, you're too big for Civil War soldiers. And of course they got to pick this thing up and move it around. So you better have some friends. You better have some friends, that's right. Okay? And so that's how they aimed them and that's how they fired them. And when they fire them, they got to reload it and fire it again. It's only a one-shot deal. Only a one-shot deal. Okay? So that's the way the guns were aimed. If I remember, and that's asking a lot at my age, I'll show you the gun. I'll show you the cannonball that hits sickles. Okay, very expensive. I'm going to buy Jamaica when I retire. I'll put it on the market. I should probably get at least $25 billion for the cannonball that hits Sickles' leg. Okay, and I have that in my car in case I have road rage. I just throw that sucker out the window, and I get more respect. All right. So if I remember, I'll show you that. But anyway, that's how they aimed it. That's how they fired. Load it from the front, fire from the back. Don't be back here when it fires. Okay, run you over.
And they fired a shell, not like the old cannonball, right?
Yeah, they found a shell not like the old cannonball.
Okay.
In fact, I'll show you a shell not like the old cannonball and the old cannonball itself. How's that sound? Okay. All right. So that's coming up. All right. Over the building, to the right of the barn. Because I think I see Hacc. See, this is an old guide trick. You tell them a couple things, and then you tell them there's a castle and rocks. I'll see you in 10 minutes. So see, they're climbing all over the rocks over there, and the castle over here. I want to show you these photographs here. These are two of the principal actors here, principal players. One of the things on a little round top, you have an inordinate number, a high percentage, unusual percentage of Union officers that go down. Probably because they realize they need to inspire their men, and so they get up and they stand around, wave their arms, and they get shot. Okay, here Colonel Strong Vincent goes down, bullet in the hip. They can't get it out. He dies on July the 7th. Patty O'Rourke gets a bullet above the bow tie, hit him in the throat. He dies a few moments later. Okay, General Weed is dead on the hill. He commands a brigade here. He's dead on the hill. Bullet hit him in the heart. And then, of course, Hazlitt gets shot in the brain. Okay, up there. So he was commanding the artillery. So they're targeting the officers. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? These guys are all pretty much in their 20s. I wanted to tell you, I forgot, Daniel Webster Flagler was a classmate at West Point of this gentleman right here. In fact, he graduated in the senior class in May of 1861. West Point graduates on Memorial Day. Okay, there. So he graduates in May. The junior class graduated later in June. He's the first in his class of the junior class. Last in that class is also at Gettysburg. His name is Custer, George Armstrong Custer. And if he had to go another year, he wouldn't have made it because he can't work off any more demerits. Okay, you see. And so Patty O'Rourke was first in the class at West Point. That would be the junior class. First in the senior class, a Medal of Honor recipient. I was just talking about him last week. As some of you know, I did an 8-day tour of the Shenandoah Valley. Was Henry DuPont, whose family owns Delaware. Okay, and DuPont was a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient for the Battle of Newmarket there, which was in 1864. He was first in the class, the senior class of 1861. Also, Here on the hill was a man by the name of Randall Mackenzie. He's on the staff of that gentleman there, where those girls aren't allowed to be standing, but they can't resist a pretty face, and so there they are. But anyway, Randall Mackenzie was first in the class of 1862, so he was the next graduate after Custer. You never heard of Randall Mackenzie because he never got massacred by the Indians, because he was that good. He was that good. So these are two players here. There's a legend about Paddy O'Rourke that if you rub his nose, you will get lucky. Some of you might want to rub it because, you know, you only got about, what, 3 weeks of class left and papers are due. And most of you haven't started them yet. Okay, and that's not unusual. Why start them before they're due? Okay, you see. Okay, so you might want to come over here with me then, and I'll show you what I mean. You see, killed in action. I don't know how lucky he was. Right? Luck of the Irish, I guess. But O'Rourke's men came down the hill here as the Confederates were coming up, and they stopped him in this area. Unfortunately, he was shot through the throat. He's from Rochester, New York. Today they're across the Genesee River in Rochester, New York. There is the Paddy O'Rourke Bridge. I wonder who it's named for. I don't know. I had a tour here. I had 3 Paddy O'Rourkes. I said, which one is the real one? Will the real Paddy O'Rourke please stand up? And all 3 of them were standing at the time. Okay, they were descendants of this gentleman right here. Okay, and they were all called Paddy O'Rourke because once you get a good name in the family, you keep it. Okay, you keep it. And so that's Paddy O'Rourke here in his monument. This is where his men will fight then again on July the 3rd. Okay, all right, let's walk down this way. I used to be able to stand behind this thing and be as tall as I was without it, but erosion has set in. So I have declined in height, in elevation. But this photograph was taken right after the battle, and they're taking a picture of the Union breastworks, protective barricades they built so they could come back and put monuments up someday. All right? And these rocks in the photograph are the ones right behind me. Right behind me, we're going to walk down there in just a second. And you can see the sticks in there. The sticks, you know, one of the things you got to understand about breastworks, they protect you to your chest if you're kneeling down. Okay, protect you to your chest if you're kneeling down. In order to shoot, you must be kneeling, and what is not protected? Your head. What does head rhyme with?
Dead.
Dead. You get shot in the head, you're dead. God's plan. Okay? He made certain that that would rhyme so that we would understand it very clearly. Dead and head rhyme for a reason. Okay? So they would put head logs over the stone to protect their head. They'd shoot under the log and over the stone to protect their head. But if the log gets hit and falls on you, you could get hurt. See the sticks in here? Those are to prevent the log from rolling over top of you. They'd line the sticks up there. If the log rolled over, it would catch the sticks, and if you saw it in time, you could duck under the sticks and you would not get hurt. That's military engineering at its finest, okay? And the little boxes there are from the ammunition crates that they brought up here, okay? All right, we're gonna walk down this way. Be careful here. Looking at is a marker here where Strong Vincent was wounded. Strong Vincent, actually mortally, as I told you earlier. Okay, this marker that we're looking at is not the original. The original was hit in 1978 by a tree that fell on it and broke it into 2 pieces. So it wasn't here until they got a replacement piece and put it here. The original was in storage, but we knew where it was. It wasn't with the Ark of the Covenant, which is in a facility down in DC, and it's not cataloged. Okay, this monument was dedicated, the original one was dedicated in 1878 by the Strong Vincent Post of Erie, Pennsylvania. Strong Vincent was a native of Erie, Pennsylvania. His father owned an ironworks there and could afford to give him a real education, and he went to Harvard and he got a law degree. So he's a Harvard lawyer, but the bullet didn't care that hit him in the hip. Okay, didn't care at all. No, what a lucky man he was, you see. Okay, he was trying to rally the 16th Michigan over there that had been flanked and driven in, and those guys are running this way to get away. He's trying to be seen so they will pay attention. He gets up here on this rock, and that's when the bullet hit him in the hip, because the Texans that are chasing the people from Michigan can see him too. Okay, and like I said, he doesn't die until July 7th. The bullet went in here, and it got lodged in here between his hip bone and his leg. So it didn't come out. And guess what? They aren't going to be able to go in and get it. Okay? and so he dies from infection. We went delirious about July the 5th. Unfortunately, his wife is coming. He has a new baby girl he's never seen. They get here the day of his death. And so she didn't know him. She's only a few weeks old, and he didn't know her because he's delirious. Okay, and so he dies in one of the Weichert farms back here behind the hill. Well, they put this up to him in 1878. They also put up another marker in the Valley of Death to the youngest commander killed from Pennsylvania. There, a man by the name of King, who was killed. Charles Frederick Taylor, who was killed commanding the bucktails, the famous Pennsylvania bucktails. Put the tails of deer in their hat to scare the animals away. Okay, but anyway, the bucktails, and he was killed. He was 23 years old, 23, and he's buried in the same cemetery where Charles King is buried, youngest soldier killed in the Civil War, barely 12 years old, barely 12, killed at Antietam in 1862. So this is the replacement marker. The original now is in the Strong Vincent Museum in Erie, Pennsylvania. So that's where the original is. It's laid out in the two pieces that it was left in, so eventually made up there. So this is a replacement marker. But as you can see, well, I'm right on there. He dies on July 7th. I thought I was making it up, but there it is. Okay, they're cut in stone. You can't argue with the monument. So the first two monuments to go up outside the cemetery on the battlefield was this one to where Vincent fell, and Charles Frederick Taylor is down in the loop around Devil's Dam. And that's not the original marker either. They made a bigger marker later when they got more money and moved it. Okay, so it's not really on the spot he was shot anyway. But this one still is. This one still is. Okay. He's a high school today in Erie, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Strong Vincent High School.
One of my best friends graduated.
Yeah, there you go.
And our former governor, as you probably know, Tom Ridge, almost went there, but went to the rival Catholic school.
Oh, yes, he would.
Yeah.
Yes, he would.
But like Strong Vincent, as you probably know, Tom Ridge went to Harvard.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, they built a new high school, and the big debate was, do you move the monument? There's a monument to Strong Vincent in front of the high school. Do you leave it at the old high school or move it to the new high school? And the last I heard on the controversy, they're leaving it at the old high school. Okay, so he didn't make the transition to the new high school, so he's still down at the old high school there. I had a group of students from Strong Vincent High School. I asked them, how did you get such a stupid name for your high school? We don't know. So what do you mean you don't know? You don't know what your high school is named for? Nah. They were seniors on their trip to Washington. They're brain dead. They got about brain dead in the 10th grade. That's when they're, you know, the learning curve goes way down after 10th grade, you know. Okay, has something to do with, you know, maturity. But anyway, I brought them up here and told them, and they said, that's a ridiculous story. I said, go check it out. So I had them the next year, and they weren't the same class, but the same teacher. And she said, yeah, they checked it out, and sure enough, you were right. I said, yeah, and all the other stuff I told you was right, too. Just remember that. Okay, so Strong Vincent. He's bigger today. He's a high school. Okay, let's go this way. I wanted to get some Civil War art put in the living room. She says, I don't want my kids growing up with that on the wall. Okay, whatever that means. All right. But anyhow, this is one of the many paintings of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, their hero of Gettysburg and the Civil War. And this is Vincent telling Chamberlain where to put his men. Now, Vincent's actually in charge. Chamberlain is a regimental commander under him. This is the 20th Maine going into position on Little Round Top. You could wallpaper your house with prints of Chamberlain, different prints of Chamberlain. Every Civil War artist paints them, and you know why? Because they're sold out before you're done painting them. Okay, they're sold out. What are you painting it for? For beauty? You're painting it for profit. Paint and profit start with the same letter, P. Okay, you see? And so that's why you have so many different prints of Chamberlain. Some are better than others. This one's a little hokey, but I like it because Vincent's in it. Okay, all right, let's walk back here. Right there, and then this is the guy he's fighting against here, a man by the name of William Oates. He's the guy that said if we'd have stayed on Big Round Top, cut the trees down, we could have blown them off of this hill. Okay, there as well, but that's not true either. And sometime, maybe I'll do the next walk on Big Round Top, and you'll see why they can't get artillery up there. Okay, but anyway, so you can see how they're fighting in the rocks here. Chamberlain, of course, is the one you want your daughter to show up with, and this is the guy she usually shows up with, wearing a leather jacket and driving a Harley. You know that because that's what happened to my daughter. Leather jacket and Harley. And oh, doesn't she look good in leather? You see, okay. But anyway, this guy has all the right stuff. You know, he goes to a seminary, wants to be a minister, decides to go into education. He went to Bangor Seminary and then was a professor of rhetoric at Bowdoin College, which is the most expensive school in the United States of America that you have to pay for. The most expensive school is West Point, but you don't pay, at least in money. Okay, there. But anyhow, he goes there, rhetoric. Do we still teach that at HACC? Yeah.
Oh, it's called speech.
It's called speech. That's it. We still
Communication.
teach it. Professor Hill is the speech teacher here at HACC, so we still teach that today. And so he goes on to great things. He will be awarded a Congressional Medal of Honor for his services in the Civil War. He too is wounded in the hip, but the bullet came out. So he lives until 1914. 51 years after the Battle of Gettysburg, dies at the age of 84, becomes governor of Maine. This guy here has a rocky beginning. He and his father got into a fight. His father threw him out of the house at the age of 15. He goes from one misadventure to another, and he had to leave Texas because the brothers were looking for him, something about their sister. I never could quite get that story straight. And so he comes back, he studies law in the law office, becomes a lawyer and a politician, and he too will be wounded at Petersburg, where he got it shot in the hip. He will lose his arm there, and goes on. He lives till 1907. 1907, and he becomes governor of Alabama. So it's going to work out all right. I hope it does for my daughter as well. But anyway, so both of these guys become governors of their respective states. Both volunteered for the Spanish-American War. His was denied on the basis of his health. His was accepted, one-armed general. Why? Because you need support from Alabama. Who cares about Maine? You see, there aren't that many people there to worry about. Okay? But Alabama, that's something else again. And so he served as a brigadier general in Cuba in the Spanish-American War, whenever that was. Probably 1898, as near as I can figure. Okay, so these two guys turned out all right, and they got corresponded after the war to try and sort out what happened here. What happened here. We're still trying to sort it out. Okay, so that's what they really look like. All right, let's walk back the road. Along was built by soldiers. Built on the afternoon of July 3rd, 1863. When was the battle on Little Round Top fought? What day?
July 2nd.
July 2nd. Wall was built on the 3rd. Isn't that great? See, so it wasn't here when it mattered. In 1887, Chamberlain, now governor of Maine, insisted they put a tablet up to tell you that. The tablet sits down along this wall along the road. You can see it when you walk back up. It said this wall was built for defense. These breastworks were built for defense July 3rd, 1863 p.m. Okay, because he wanted you to know 151 years later, his men didn't have a wall to hide behind when it mattered. Okay, they fought with a bayonet. They saved a hill by using a knife in a gunfight. A desperate moment for desperate times. And here's the right flank of the 20th Maine. That's what R stands for. It's the right flank of the unit. They fought in lines, and this is the right flank of the 20th Maine. And see how they left the gap? Because they weren't behind the wall, so they left the gap here. But they wanted the wall to be here because it was here during the battle, just not when these guys fought here. See, so if you're on the right flank, 20th Maine, you're not fighting behind the wall. Okay, so they broke the wall here to show that. And most people, I bet you most of the guides don't know that. They don't know it. And who cares? The wall was here, it wasn't, you see. Okay, so this is the right flank. There must be a left somewhere. Or maybe we left it somewhere else. All right, let's go this way. Watch underneath. Okay, and that's because they take the trees for lumber. They don't let them get real big because you can't use a big tree. Can't use it. It's too hard to manage. And they don't let them get real tall. They cut them down probably when they're about 15 feet high. Or maybe a little longer, depending on what you want to use them for. Okay, so these trees are probably bigger than the trees that were here during the battle. All right? Okay. And of course, this is not only the left flank of the 20th Maine, it's the left flank of the whole Union Army here on July 2nd, 1863. And no one cared. Didn't care. I sat here in 1988, sat on the 20th Maine Memorial with my family and cracked a few beers and had a good time. Sat there and told them stories. The kids ran around, threw rocks at one another because they're kids. Okay, you see, two people came back, looked at me, and walked away. This was on July 2nd, 1988, the anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. when Chamberlain did his thing. And I was there to remember that, and no one else came. Okay? You see, the party was a small one, but I enjoyed it all the more because there was more beer for me. Okay? Kids weren't drinking yet, and I wouldn't let them. They don't drink at home because it's my beer. Okay? You see? All right? And so a movie comes out in 1992 called Gettysbug. Now everybody wants to know where Chamberlain fought, and when they come back here, they want to know where the left flank of the regiment is. Well, there's no left flank marker. It had left. It had been gone. Wasn't here in 1988, wasn't here in 86. In fact, we're not sure exactly when it left, probably in the 1950s. And what we think happened, he was sitting right here, and got loose, and it fell down there. It's probably down there somewhere, but they wouldn't let them dig to look for it. Okay? So the original one's down there. But everyone says, why don't you have a left flank? That's most important. You see, we could see where it was, but there wasn't a marker here. So there was a guy from Maine, a man named Thomas Jordan. He's got a doctorate, PhD in communications. You see, and he was here, worked for the Park Service here for about 3 or 4 years. We got to be pretty good friends. But anyway, hey, he called up Maine, you know, because he lived there, grew up there, went to University of Maine, calls him up, and he called the place that made this, and he said, I'm Thomas Jordan, I'm from Maine. I'd like to find out if I could get a replacement marker for the left flank of the 20th Maine Memorial. Okay? And so the guy said, hang on a minute. And you could just hear that metal file cabinet opening. And the dirty manila folder coming out with the yellow paper in it. And he comes back and he says, yeah, we can make another one. We got the specifications right here, and we have the same stone. And so this is a replacement marker for a left flank. The only replacement left flank marker, the only replacement marker for a flank on the entire battlefield. Because people want to know where the left flank was. Furthermore, okay, when they put it here, I think it was 1995. It might have been a little later, because I don't remember the 90s much. But anyway, 1995, okay, let's say it's 95 for the sake of argument. They had the former chief historian of the National Park Service come here and give a dedicatory speech for this flank marker. At least it wasn't a nut. See, if I tell the truth, they drop a leaf on my mouth, they throw nuts at me. But anyway, from one nut to another. But anyway, right here, this is the only flank marker to have a dedicatory service. The only one. Okay? And that's because this was the left flank. And if you don't know why it's important, then you got to see the movie. That's your homework assignment. And don't think it's going to be easy. It's a 4-hour and 35-minute movie. Okay? 4 hours, 35 minutes. I was going to show it in class about U.S. history. I think I will, because look at how much less I'll have to talk. It'll take us a month to see the whole thing in class. What do you think? What a great idea. Maybe next semester I'll have the class vote on it. Do you want to see a movie, or do you want to learn history? See a movie. See a movie. Okay, you see. And so the movie was based on the book Killer Angels. Killer Angels, which if you're going to read one book in Gettysburg, I'd suggest you start with that. Okay, it's a novel. Don't look at me that way. You won't even read the history books we've taken my class. Okay, all right. You see, so it's a novel written by Michael Shar. Jeff Shar is his son. But anyway, so the left flank original one's down there somewhere. Okay, and this was the original road to come around to get up here to get the Little Round Top. Then you went down behind the hill and parked over it where we had started our tour, which is why you didn't find us, because we started at a lower slope and walked up. Okay, so left flank.
I knew someone from my church who was in that movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He was an extra.
Oh, yeah. They had 5,000 extras. They wanted me to be in it. I didn't want to be an extra. I wanted a leading role. This is contraband. You can't tell anyone you saw this.
Take a picture. Telling everybody.
No, don't take a picture. Don't put it on Facebook. Or, you ever hear this story? What are you doing here? How you doing? Okay. But anyway, I got to cover that cannonball, and I went into the bank, and I told the people I was going to come in here to see if I can renegotiate my loan, and I come walking out of the bank with a cannonball. And I said, that's what you get in this bank. You come in for money, and look what they give you. A daggone cannonball. But it's Confederate made. It was fired during the Battle of Gettysburg, probably from Seminary Ridge, and it hit in Rec Park. So that's where that cannonball. That's the solid balls they shoot. And then over here, this is the way it would look as it was fired. We sit on a sabot, and then the gunpowder would be back here. Put it in. The gunpowder explodes. This is a plunger, pushes it out. Of course, this one's special. If I can see right here. Oops, it's all jammed in there. But anyway, you can see a little hole there. That's where they'd have a fuse. In the hole there to put a fuse. When the cannonball fires, it lights a fuse, burns in here, and bursts the shell in the air. hence the bombs bursting in air. You ever hear that? Comes from that great Led Zeppelin song, Stairway to Heaven. Bombs bursting. Oh, no, that's
not the one.
That's not the one. That's a 70s thing. Okay, but anyway, so there's that. Okay, and then they fire these also as well. This will come out of the, this is the other solid rounds that are fired out of the gun you saw at the top of the hill. Okay, see? That's
yeah.
Yeah, if you get hit with that, you hope your will's in order.
You're gonna die.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Look at you, you shot put. That's about the size of a high school shot put. That's right. Bob, what are you doing?
How are you going to fit all these people in your car?
I don't know. That's I'm going to ride on the top.
When did they use, I mean, when did they typically use like a cannonball and then a shell? I mean, like,
the cannonball and the shell. Well, the cannonball comes out of a gun that's not rifled, and the projectile comes out of one that's rifled. Solid shot are used at hard targets like walls, you know, mass formations. If you got people like this group right here, I'd use a solid round right here. I'd fire hit George, I get him, bounce it, hits those people over there. You know, that's what I'd use a solid shot. If you guys are spread out, then I'd use the one that bursts in the air. So that throws the metal over a wider area. Shrapnel, that's what it's called. Henry Shrapnel invented it.
Invented shrapnel?
He did. That's right, I'm serious.
Henry Shrapnel.
Henry Shrapnel.
What a jerk.
In the 1780s. What a jerk. These are students from
Especially if you say it's a coincidence. Of all the people to invent shrapnel, it would be a guy named Shrapnel.
That's right. That's right. Just think if he does. Bob's a good friend of mine. I should introduce Bob. Bob Velke.
No.
You don't want me to introduce you?
hi, Bob.
Hi,
Hey, Bob. Bob's an enthusiast of the battlefield here, and I do some tours for him when he lets me. Okay, yeah. And when I'm with him, I have to tell the truth because he knows the story as well as anybody. Okay, did you see that yet? That's what comes out of those rifle pieces. So solid, you got a big target, you use that. You got a spread out target, you make it burst. If they get close, you use this. It's filled with iron golf balls. Okay, it's called canister, and you put that in, and the gunpowder sits here, and when it explodes, it shatters this, and the golf balls comes out as individual projectiles. It's sort of the similar thing we have with nuclear weapons now. They shoot them up into outer space, and they MIRV into like 24 missiles aimed at different targets. Okay, so one nuclear submarine fires one missile could destroy the world. One nuclear submarine, if it gets it off, can destroy the world with one missile. They carry, some of them are carrying 18 to 24 now.
Overkill.
Yeah. So
Is that used at close range?
that's used at within 400 yards. 400 yards. Let me see here. 1887 is when that was put there.
It should say decoration. This wall was built for decoration.
Yeah.
Because we didn't use it.
Well, they did on July 3rd, but they weren't attacked.
Yeah.
You could almost say it was superfluous. That means it was unnecessary.
Like my third nipple. My superfluous third nipple.
Well, that's another story. That's a matter of anatomy. Anatomy, that's not a historian's problem.
I like vocab words though.
Okay, well, you keep working on it. I think Terry's right up there.